taken decisive action to keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country.
President Trump is expected to issue a new executive order very soon, possibly as early as tomorrow. Now, a senior White House official says the new order affects the same 7 predominantly Muslim countries as the first order, but dual citizens of those countries in the United States, as well as foreigners holding green cards, will be exempt. Plus, the new order will no longer single out and reject Syrian refugees applying for visas. With me now is the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Very simply, what do you think of these possible revisions and keeping the same 7 countries that were identified in the first executive order, keeping those countries in this one?
Well, Adam, I think it recognizes that these 7 countries are deep problems identified by the Obama administration as being chaotic, unmanageable regimes that we just couldn't rely on. So I think to that point, the president's going to move forward with keeping our country safe. To the points that were raised, I think it's demonstrating that the checks and balances of our court system work, and I hope he engages Congress. I think as Secretary Kelly promised Senator Portman in the hearings that were discussed on this, that hopefully Congress will be engaged. I think the removal of those with visas, either pending or in place, is important. The religious minority provision, I think it's important to note that if that's modified, remember, we have commissions on religious freedom.
Right.
We do recognize political and religious persecution. So I hope, we start vetting, extreme vetting against Islamists, and that would open up those who have been persecuted, including minorities, and that not be removed completely.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but under the Obama administration, we only had a cap of 50,000 total into the country for several years. It was only in the last year that it was raised, but we also, the Obama administration was not taking in Syrian refugees. It was only in the last year of the administration that they kind of opened up the doors. Am I correct on that? It seems as if what President Trump is doing is nothing different, and yet President Trump is getting criticized.
This is where the narrative has just been bizarre as far as sort of this agitation propaganda. Many of us in the Syrian American community were asking for more refugees. Yes, vet them better and even extreme vetting against Islamists and jihadists, but bring more in because there's so many that need to come in. We asked to increase from 50 to 100,000, and that was just going to happen in 2017. So President Trump now said, hold on a second, let's make sure the vetting is done correctly. And I'm glad to hear that Syria was taken off the permanent stop list and put back on the pause list, which makes more sense since that's the country of most need. But the narrative is just completely backwards from a media that really wants to get ahead of this because they know this is the first step in a long process of vetting against Islamist, jihadist ideologies that are the bigger underbelly of the global threat.
The key question, though, is do you think this order will hold?
Well, I think if we look at the signals from the Ninth Circuit, if we look at, and this is why he needs to engage Congress, I think, the implementation was problematic. So we're going to roll it out better. I think Secretary Kelly will be ahead of it. Yes, I do believe that if it's worded with the advice that came from the Ninth Circuit, that they'll package it in a way that it'll be airtight.
In fact, General McMaster named the next National Security Advisor today. When you talk about the need to extreme vet to weed out the Islamists, do you think that his experience on the ground in Iraq will be put into use as we come up with new extreme vetting procedures to keep the country safe?
I do. I think it's another great pick by the Trump administration of somebody who's going to work well as a military strategist and somebody who has a great record on hard and soft power abroad. So militarily, I think that we have nothing to be concerned about. He'll balance and work together to bring the national security team for the Trump administration together. I do hope that we also start to see that in position we'll start to get a shape of what a Trump doctrine will be all about, not only being against ISIS, but being for the advancement of liberty. And I think McMaster has shown that he does see a role for soft power versus always hard power.
Just very quickly, though, is it fair, and I asked you this a little bit earlier, President Trump gets a lot of criticism for this, but he's not doing much different than what President Obama was doing. It doesn't seem fair to criticize him when the press didn't criticize Obama.
Yeah, they've been anesthetized for the last 8 years, and they're finally waking up to their role, and their role really has been more for agitation. And if they just deal with the substance, that's fine. That's what the Fourth Estate is all about. But they're really simply just agitating. And to compare, as you said, if you compare the policies if anything, President Trump is just moving more quickly to get ISIS directly militarily.
Okay.
But has there been much policy change? I don't see it that much yet.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, thank you very much for joining us. All the best to you tonight.
Thank you, Adam.